Hey guys, it's Lucky here, and today we're going to go over the things I wish I knew sooner when I was playing Diablo 4. These are the things where I got like 2 days into the beta, a day into the beta, and I thought to myself, oh man, I wish I'd known that yesterday or the day before. That would have made that so much easier. That would have made that so much better. It would have saved me a ton of currency or a ton of time. These are the types of items I'm going to cover in this video. The things that you're very likely to miss or not notice if you haven't played Diablo 4 yet, or even if you have, it's very possible you missed at least one of the things on this list, probably more than one for a lot of people. So let's dive in. The first thing that I wish I knew sooner is that when you find an aspect that you want in your codex, one of the things that you can do without leaving the codex is click on that aspect and then have the codex pin that location on the map for you so that you can just follow the line that it puts on your minimap to get to that dungeon where the aspect is that you would like to farm. This is going to be great when you're searching through your codex, looking for useful aspects, and you find one and you're wondering where the heck that thing is located. The next one is a quick one as well. It's the silent chest. So there's going to be silent chests located throughout the world, here and there. And the unique thing about these is that you can't open them without a whispering key. And you get the whispering keys from the gamble merchant in town. So you go to town, you spend 20 obols on a whispering key, and then you can open the next silent chest that you run into. Now in the beta, these silent chests didn't have great drop rates, so I found it less useful to spend my obols on these keys so that I could open the chests. Instead, I found it more useful to spend my obols gambling for specific pieces of gear I needed. Now, that's all completely subject to change, so we're going to have to test these out and go ahead and try it, you know, spend a few obols on a few keys, and that way you can open up the chests when you run into them. If you find a chest out in the wild and you don't have the obols on you, there's a good chance that when you teleport back to town to buy your whispering key, that when you come back, you'll have changed instances or the chest will have despawned and you won't be able to open it anymore. So just be aware of that fact that that can happen. You go back to town to get the key. So if you want to open one of those when you find one, make sure you have the key already on you. That way you can just open it up without having to go back to town. The next one's actually really handy, especially once your build starts ramping up and you start killing things really fast, or if you have a lot of dots that kill things in your wake. So you're running, you're killing something, you run to the next pack, you kill it, and you might be sitting there scanning the floor every time you kill a pack of mobs, making sure that you didn't leave a legendary or making sure that last guy that died in the pack didn't leave a legendary on the ground before you move on. Blizzard has set it up such that when a legendary drops, if you leave it behind, it's going to show up in your missed items tab of your stash in town. This also works for caches that bosses drop, so you can play stress-free. You can zoom from pack to pack, killing enemies without worrying about what they dropped and worrying about missing a legendary on the map. It is possible to see a legendary on the map if you open it up, if you are worried that something's on the floor behind you and you just want to check while you're in the dungeon. Just press M, you know, open the map. There will be a little orange star on the map if there's a legendary back there. Now, Diablo 4 follows a great story about the romantic relationship between Inarius and Lilith, and the offspring they had while they were together. That is something that D4 has in common with Bloodline, Heroes of Lithis, the sponsor of today's video. Bloodline puts you in control of who shacks up with who to unlock crazy powerful Bloodline combinations. You can download the game and try it for free using my link or scanning the QR code on screen and receive an amazing starter pack worth $20. Right now, Bloodline is giving away tons of rewards all month long during its 1-year anniversary event in June. Claim free summons, diamonds, and resources simply by logging in every day. In Bloodline, you'll breed with companions and capture prisoners to unlock new bloodlines, like the brand new Titan Warriors. They are the enforcers of the Iron Will of Olympus. Then there's the Nine-Tailed Vulpins, who come from an eastern land of mysterious power. Hybrids you create inherit not only the talents and traits of their parents, but also the unique appearances passed down from each family tree and fused into one. Also, all players can obtain uniquely designed hybrid champions, Bloodcraft Legends, by earning points in seasonal guild wars. So raise heirs with companions, find waifus, build your own kingdom and economy with strategic gameplay, and enjoy beautiful scenes and captivating storylines. New bloodlines and legendary hybrids are constantly being released into the game, so the possibilities are endless for you to seek out the greatest hybrid to suit your style. Download the game for free right now on both Android and iOS. Use the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen to get the anniversary starter pack worth $20, containing 1 random champion and summoning crystal, 100,000 gold, and 100 diamonds. The first 30 players to leave their in-game account ID and username in the response to the pinned comment below will receive a free legendary female Titan Warrior. Thanks for listening. Let's get back to the video. The next item we'll talk about is the Butcher, because he's become quite infamous in Diablo 4, so let's make sure that you understand how the Butcher works and why the Butcher is important. He's going to randomly spawn in any dungeon or cellar in the game, so if you want to run into him, just keep entering dungeons and cellars, and eventually you will. He'll be in there waiting for you. You'll know it because you'll hear large chains rattling, and you'll hear these big bassy footsteps pounding the ground ahead of you. That means the Butcher's coming up, and he's coming at you fast. Now, the reason you want to run into the Butcher is because he's a guaranteed legendary. Every time you kill him, he will give you at least one legendary. At least that was the case on the beta. Whenever we killed him, no matter who killed him, we always got a legendary. It was very, very useful. One of the things to know about how the Butcher works is if you die or if you leave the area, he will despawn. He'll leave and you won't be able to kill them. So do what you have to do to kill him. Hide him, you know, get him snagged on objects, pillars, gates, fences. His AI on the beta wasn't brilliant. It was kind of easy to get him stuck behind something like a chest. Use those treasure chests. If there's a treasure chest, go ahead and take advantage of that. I was able to get him stuck behind one of those for a while and wail on him pretty safely. There's a lot of ways to outsmart the Butcher. You know, he's a big hunky piece of meat, but he's not very intelligent. So use your superior intelligence to take him down if your strength isn't quite ready to do the job just yet. One of the things that I totally missed on my first day of playing on a couple of my characters was that I could press S or Shift S and bring up my class specific menu. And for the Barbarian, this was the arsenal system where you could assign certain weapons to certain abilities. On the Necro, you could open up your Book of the Dead and assign points to decide which Necros you summoned and what passives they had attached to them. And this just kind of nonchalantly happens and it becomes an option for your character pretty early on, especially on some classes. So definitely, like, every once in a while, make sure that you check in on that button and you open up your class specific skill menu system and you look in there and see, oh, can I assign skills to weapons yet? Can I assign passives? Can I turn on my combo points if I'm a rogue? Can I do my class quest? Which brings us to the next point. Every class is going to have some class quests that are going to be massive power boosts for your character. Some of the biggest power boosts in the entire game. It's important that you take care of these as soon as possible. They're going to be light blue quests that appear in your journal and on your map. So as soon as those pop up, they're going to be basically a priority quest, which means they're going to be a class quest or they're going to be a crafting quest or something like that. And they are definitely a priority and should be treated as such. Definitely do those as soon as you can. You're going to be able to do things like upgrade your potions, which are going to vastly improve their strength. You're going to be able to do things like unlock incredibly powerful build altering passives for your class. Definitely do those priority quests as soon as they pop up. Next, let's talk about how you're going to unlock your mount, because I know this is going to be a really popular question for a lot of players. The way you unlock your mount is actually by sticking to the main story. So it's going to be important in Diablo 4 that you have a nice balance of doing the main story and deviating from the main story. And we'll go over why it's going to be really important to deviate from the main story in a moment. But right now, let's talk about why it's important to do the main story. When you do the main story, there's a couple things that you get out of that. And one of those is you're going to unlock your mount, and you're going to get there around level 30. That's what Blizzard estimates, right around level 30, give or take. You're going to get to the point in the story quest where you can unlock your mount. So you definitely want to do that because you're going to be spending a ton of time running around in the open world, and having a mount to kind of expedite the to and from that you're going to be doing is going to feel really good. Something to know about the mounts in Diablo 4, they're going to be giving away a mount skin when the game launches. All you got to do is watch a streamer and donate 2 subs to them. And hey, if you're looking for someone to donate subs to in order to get your mount skin, I'll be there. You can also watch the stream and not donate anything, and you'll unlock a ton of other cosmetics, weapon cosmetics, and stuff like that just by being present in the stream during the launch week of Diablo 4. So definitely consider swinging by my stream at twitch.tv/luckyghost if you want to dabble in any of those cosmetics or just hang out and have a good time. Now let's talk about why it's important to deviate from the main story quests. And that is, there's going to be a lot of things that you can do in the world. Let's start with the event quest. You're going to see a lot of orange circles on the map as you're running from A to B. You'll see an orange circle pop up and you might be tempted. You're like, oh man, I'm really curious about what's going to happen next in the story, or I'm really excited to get to this dungeon. And you might be tempted to just bypass that orange circle, but go ahead and run to that orange circle instead and complete it. You want to do as many of these that pop up on your way to somewhere without having to go seek them out as possible, because they're going to give you a lot of really good stuff. They give you a ton of experience, they give you great drops, and they're going to give you crafting materials, and they're going to give you obols, your gambling currency. All of these things you're going to get tons of just by doing these orange events that randomly pop up on your map. So definitely take a second to do those. They don't usually take longer than maybe 30 seconds or a minute to finish them. They go by really fast. So go ahead and knock them out. A lot of times you'll get lucky. You'll run up and the people that are already there finishing it finish the second you step up to it. You basically spent 1 second participating, but you get 100% of the rewards. So it's always worth peeking in, knocking it out, and getting those rewards. Another reason to deviate from the main story is going to be dungeons. If you do nothing but the main story quests, you are going to get a very rare legendary. There's a guaranteed legendary, for example, from doing the main story quest. Right around level 20 or 25, you'll probably get that guaranteed legendary in the main story quest. But outside of that, my luck anecdotally with the main story quest and the people that I talked to was that drops were really low when participating solely in the main story content. And the opposite was true for my friends that all went out and did dungeons and kind of ignored the main story quests in the last week of beta. They got tons of legendaries, like 3, 4, 5 legendaries on their way to level 20, whereas I got 0 outside of the main story quest legendary that was given to me. So it's going to be very, very beneficial to deviate from the main story, to go out and do those dungeons, not just for the legendaries that you're going to get from doing that and the chance encounters with the butcher, but also from all of the aspects that you're going to unlock by going to the dungeons that are relevant to your build. So definitely take advantage of that. Those are massive, massive power gains that you can get from those aspects. In fact, there's one right here that's going to be useful for every class. For instance, every build should go down to the southwestern part of the map. It's right where you start. It's one of the first dungeons you unlock, and do this dungeon as soon as they are able to. And this is going to unlock an aspect that gives them a shield every time they encounter an elite. And this includes bosses. So this is incredibly useful, incredibly powerful for every build. It's great for world boss fights, and elite encounters. Everybody's going to want this for some portion of their leveling experience on all of their characters. So definitely go down and grab this one. And there's a ton of other aspects that are just as useful as this and more for your builds. And if you're not sure which ones those are, check out my written guide linked in the description below, where I show you which aspects are going to be relevant to your build and which dungeon to run to get that aspect. Another thing that I wish I knew is that you could respec unlimited for free all the way up until level 5. So from 1 to 5, make sure you try out all of the abilities. Try all of your basic attacks. Try all of your core abilities. Just get a feel for how they feel and the passives that are attached to them. See how those feel. Play around with those up until level 5 because it's free. After 5, then you're going to have to start paying for it. It's a trivial amount of gold, to be honest. After level 5, it's still very, very small. So feel free to mess around after level 5, but definitely take advantage of it while it's free. In order to unspec from a skill, all you've got to do is right click on it. That pulls the point out, and then you click where you want to put that point back into. Another thing that I found later on was putting a pin on the map whenever I was going to a quest that was really far away. Not only would it give me the shortest path to that location, but sometimes there was fog of war in between me and my destination. And I wouldn't be sure, like, if I go this way, am I going to run into a cliff face? Am I going to get stuck in a dead end? What's going to happen? If you pin it, it's going to lead you all the way to your destination. Whether or not you can see that area or the fog of war that's in that area, it doesn't matter. It's going to give you the fastest path to that destination. So definitely utilize that, especially since we don't have a map overlay on the screen right now that you can have open while you're running. Following your pin is going to be the best way to get from A to B without having to constantly open your map to see where you are and where your destination is. Another thing I tested was flat stats like strength, intelligence, dexterity, and how important those were, how impactful they were early in the game. So for the first 20, 30 levels, like, is it worth it to worry about that stat on gear if it's there or if it's not? And my answer is no, it's not. I tested it. The amount of stats that you get early in the game are so small. It only slides your damage by 0.2, 0.3, 0.1. When you open up your stat sheet, look at your damage numbers after you equip that kind of gear, they barely move. So if an item does have intelligence and you're wondering if you should replace it with something that doesn't because the other stats on that item are better, absolutely. Don't worry about that stat. Don't worry about that core stat at low levels. There's just not enough of it on the gear to really slide your damage in a meaningful way. As opposed to the other flat stats like 20% increased damage to slowed enemies, chilled enemies, any of that kind of stuff where it's giving you large percentage values to certain types of enemies. That's way more useful. Look for that kind of stuff. Another thing to be aware of about aspects is that they are 1x as powerful on all your gear. You get 1x of the aspect's power. So if it says it's going to give you 100, you get 100. If you put that aspect on your amulet, then it's going to give you 50% increased value. So 150%. So that 100 would now be 150. And if you put it on a two-handed weapon, that aspect is now 100% more powerful. So it's going to give you 200 of that value. So if it was going to give you 100 damage, if you put it on the amulet, it's now giving you 150 damage whenever it procs. And if it was going to give you 100 damage and you put it on a two-hander, it's now going to give you 200 damage instead. So this is a bit of a kiss curse type of situation. You can put it on your two-handed weapon and it's going to be incredibly powerful. However, then you're going to be locked into a two-handed weapon that you are very likely going to want to replace you're going to be replacing your weapon a lot early on. So it might be smarter to, instead of putting a good legendary aspect on your two-hander, put it on your amulet instead, because you can sit on a mediocre amulet for a long time and it's not going to make a big deal, but most of your damage is going to come from your weapon. And so it's very important that when you get 5 levels higher and the weapon's stats are 5 levels better, that you can put that on, and that's going to be a drastic improvement to your character's damage output. Another quick one, just in case you forgot it, you can open up your wheel and you can select leave dungeon whenever you're in a dungeon. Alternatively, if you don't like using your wheel, you can just open up your map and click on the door to the dungeon that is located on the map, and that'll also take you out to the front of the dungeon. Now, another thing to be aware of is the altars of Lilith. We kind of are all aware of the fact that they exist out there right now, but another thing to kind of know about them is, besides giving you those flat stats like 2 to strength, 2 to intelligence, all of that, and giving you a little bit of renown, which is very important, they also give you increased obol capacity. So random altars located all around the world are going to give you increased obol capacity, which is going to be very nice to have. Your obol capacity is going to fill up really fast. You start with a very small obol capacity. So grabbing all of these altars is going to be great for this character, and all your other characters are going to benefit from that obol capacity increase as well. So your alts, your main, all of them are going to get that, as well as all the stats, which are nice. They're not going to feel quite as impactful as the obol capacity until you've collected a lot of them. All right, if you've made it this far into the video, hopefully that means you're enjoying the video. If that's the case, you're going to love my second YouTube channel. It's linked down in the description below. It's 100% Diablo, 100% of the time. Be sure to check that out. All right, let's get back to this video. While we're on the topic of renown, go ahead and make sure that you grab all of the strongholds on the map. These are going to give you 100 renown each. That is considerably more than any other activity in the game. Dungeons are going to give you 30. Waypoints are going to give you 20. Discovering new locations is going to give you 5. Very tiny amounts compared to what one stronghold will give you. And strongholds always have mobs that are 2 levels higher, which means they have great drops for you. You're not going to be farming items that are level 25 when you're 25. You're going to get items that are level 27 and beyond. Very useful to farm strongholds for good gear. It's also going to be very useful to farm them for the renown that they give you. Definitely take advantage of those strongholds. By doing that and by getting that renown, you're going to increase your potion capacity, your obol capacity, and you're also going to increase your skill points that your main character and all of your alts have. Another thing to be aware of is that you're going to get a skill point every time you level, all the way up to level 50. At level 50, you're going to stop getting skill points and you're going to start getting what are called paragon points every quarter of a level instead. So it's going to be really useful to kind of make sure that as you approach 50, you've got points in all the things that you wanted to unlock. That's kind of where you start running out of points. You're going to have something like 58 points at that point in your character's life. When you get to about level 50 and it's time to do that capstone dungeon, that you don't have to do it right away. You can out level it. It's a static difficulty kind of test that is set in front of you. So if you go in there at 45 or 50 or whatever level, you run into that capstone dungeon and you struggle, feel free to leave and come back when your character's more ready for it. It's one of the few places in the game that doesn't level when you level. Another thing I wish I knew sooner is that you could go watch Lucky Ghost at twitch.tv/LuckyGhost, and he will answer every single question that you have about Diablo 4 anytime. He's looking for company and he'd appreciate having you around. So definitely feel free to swing by his stream. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe for more Diablo 4 content. There's going to be a ton of it coming out of the gates here. Definitely check out all of our written guides at d4.justlootit.com. We have build guides, we have leveling guides, we have aspect guides. Everything that you could possibly want to know about Diablo 4 will be there, so definitely check that out. Linked in the description below. Thanks so much for watching the video. Massive shout out to my YouTube members. If you want to become a YouTube member for behind the scenes footage, access to a private Discord channel, and more, make sure to click the join button below. If you're not sure what to do next, check out one of the videos popping up on screen, or check out one of the written guides in the description below.